There's hats because you're having a bad hair day. There's hats because you're having a big hair day. You're just having a bad day. The curls have not relaxed yet, but I'm a little fired up today. I just listened to a great interview. I'm going to link that below by Katherine Fitz. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her or not, but what I had planned on talking about in this video was road culture and systems of living. And what I mean by that, especially agility and systems of living, you've seen that in a few of the recent video series, you know, how we eat, where we get shelter, why we have shelter, how we shelter. That also includes our money systems, our health systems. It's however we create a system to live together in a mutually beneficial way, whether it's our personal system of eating or our group system of collecting and producing food. And I believe those systems are in the process of evolving and changing, and that's why I'm talking to you about road culture, because I believe in this transition period we need to become way more agile. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, so it's a super windy day. We're going to take a big breath and we're going to see you on the other side. All right, so let me just calm down a minute. I just listened to this great interview. I just had an email exchange with you, Jake, and we were talking about this idea of homelessness, and you've seen me make some videos on that, and you know I'm a social worker. So I thought I needed to do some clarification about where I stand. So when I do talk about these ideas of systems of living, I'm not talking about socialism or handouts. I'm talking about humongous changes in the way that we view systems of living and how we are at the cusp of either having terrible new systems of living pushed on us, or we're on the brink of creating amazing and good systems of living. And that's why I like Katherine Fitz. So I really encourage you, if you don't know about her, to listen to this interview. She's a money gal. She's been part of the system. She's been out of the system. She's been persecuted by the system. She is very smart, one of the smartest people I've ever heard about a variety of subjects. And she's done a couple things that are profound, what I thought, in terms of shifting my own understanding of systems of living. And one of the things that she did, which she talks about briefly in this interview, is if you took all the money in America and you kept it mostly within each county, there would be so much money that we wouldn't know what to do with it all. So when I talk about homelessness and being hungry and that kind of stuff, I'm not advocating poverty. I'm not saying, awesome, I'm suffering. I am talking about this because we need to take a huge jerk out of the existing systems of living, and that is this agility I'm trying to speak to. Road culture is just one. We have rural culture, we have urban culture, we have all kinds of other countries and their culture, not because we all should have the same system, but because we have the technology, the capacity, the ability to radically shift the existing systems into something where everyone wins. And that's where we move over into the other part that's my real work. The way I see it is 18 Crossroad, agility in self, because this is the other most important piece of information. You cannot change the systems. You can only change the people. People reflect the systems. When groups are trying to control the systems, that means they're trying to shove people into a system. That's communism, fascism, socialism, all those things. The collective needs to behave in a specific way because some persons, group, entities, whatever you want to call it, wants to control the people, so it creates a system first and tries to shove you into that. That rarely feels good. That's our point of pride here in America, is we usually rebel against the system and we create our own. We did that in 1776 with a lot of heartbreak and hard time. So do not operate under the illusion that creating new systems is easy any more than it is creating a new self, to be a different kind of person, to live and then create a different kind of system. You can't do one or the other. If people change, the systems change. If the systems change, people change. And if you want to create a system that as a person you want to live in, you have to start with the person first. And the reason I love road culture, the reason I'm speaking to you, the reason I'm so passionate about this isn't because I'm having an aha moment and I'm just discovering all this information. The only thing that's happening, I get a little tired sometimes with the pat on the head comments, is that I'm just finding my language and my place and my form to deliver what I've been studying for 40 years. I am not an expert in systems. I am an expert in people. What drives us, how we change, why we don't change, and why it's the key to everything. It's not changing the system. It's changing the person. The reason I'm talking about different ways of looking at the system from every extreme is because the more wider your experience, your perceptions, your ideas, your imagination, the bigger your imagination can become, the more room, the more expansion you have to create a new way of being for yourself, which will then ultimately reflect in new systems. One of the other reasons I'm so passionate about this idea of road culture is what we're experiencing is this crush system trying to keep us in a smaller and smaller box. And I made that video before about trying to put people into urban areas and concentrate them to take away our rights and our freedoms to travel, to drive, to buy gas. And then the second piece of that, what you're seeing in the news right now, is a social credit system to isolate us and control us by denying our individuality and our freedom of self. And they don't do that to us. We do that by not taking responsibility and paying attention to who we want to be. That's what the system reflects. They can't make that happen to us. That happens to us because we don't pay attention and we don't care. And if it happens to us, then the majority of the people in America, that's how they feel. It may not be how you feel, but that's why that happens, is you can't change the system, you have to change the person. You can't change anybody else, you can only change yourself. And that's what I'm trying to do here with you here at Road Culture for Life, over at the website at 18 Crossroad. And everything I've been doing, this whole primal human stuff, isn't about me figuring stuff out on how to fix or save anybody. It's not me trying to change you. It's me excited about sharing ideas, because that's the only way we change ourselves and change the systems. If we don't communicate, if we don't interact, if we isolate, if we collapse into a tiny bubble and a small box, guess what? That box becomes physical. Not a tiny trailer box, but a cell block or a prison or a tyranny that looks like virtual reality as you sit with your ocular glasses on, looking at your fake life in, what is it called, Second Chance, Second Life, I don't know, or video games or wherever. So there aren't any easy answers. There's no fast track. There's no simple road. There's no quick, fast solution. I just am excited about being able to find my language to share with you and put together a constructive system to not just keep you on track, but to keep me on track, because it's hard. I think that's sort of the other part about that people don't get. Living in a tiny trailer or a tiny RV or a van or with a backpack or however nomadic version of life that you're living, it's much harder than being in a house or an apartment where everything is consistent and stable. But just because it's easier doesn't mean it's better for you. I do this because I like the challenge. I talk to people who like to live like this because they tend to be the rebels and the mavericks and the people who think for themselves and the people who buck the system, the people who don't want to live a standard conventional life. Not because there's not value in standards and convention, but because I think it's way more fun to be a little more radical and out of the box, in the box, out in the world, but in the world. You got that? So that's just me having a moment. I wasn't going to make a video today because I had a big hair day. Tomorrow it will be much better. But between listening to her and just having those thoughts fire off, I just think we are in this incredibly powerful moment. You know, I just had my last video demonetized, and with all this social credit system, it's just this glaring reminder. If we don't make all these tiny decisions about who we want to be that reflect the systems we want to live in, and if we're not wildly agile at this point in time, it's going to be really bad. I'm going to be talking more about this kind of stuff, which I know isn't regular RV community kind of stuff, but I think if you're just doing the RV community thing, you might be overrun by a bunch of people running across the desert one day if you are not paying attention. So we're paying attention here. We're not fear-mongering. We are excited about creating new systems of living within the road culture lifestyle. Not because there are answers, but by imagining all the answers there could be, just like she talks about, Katherine Austin Fitz talks about how all the different systems of money that would create tremendous wealth for we the people, if you don't imagine it first, it can't happen. And that's what I'm trying to do here with you. Well, one thing. Plus, we're having a little bit of fun. But until then, we're going to take a last deep breath, because we're not going to see the massive changes one way or the other today. But we can think about it, and we'll see you next time.